All right, let's talk about bib mousses. Just replying to a question that I saw on the internet, and I've made some videos about bibs before. This one, I'm going to go into a few things like fitment, fitting them into tires. One rider was talking about how they come in different sizes. I'll just go after that first before I lose you. Basically, the way that I size a mousse is with a cloth tape. I'll just wrap a cloth tape around it, measure the circumference, and then for the tires that I like to use, I know the numbers that I like. What's a good number? For a Dunlop front, generally 22 to 23 centimeters is usually a pretty good number, or 220, 230 millimeters. That's circumference wrapped around with a cloth tape. A rear 110 Dunlop, usually around 32 to 33 centimeters is pretty good. Um, just how it fills out the tire, and then how you would determine regularly fitment as far as 12 psi, and if that's good. Obviously, feel how the bike feels. You can even push on the carcass, see if it feels like your other tires with 12 psi. But then I also look at rim clean. Um, when dirt is collecting on the side of the rim, so if it's dry and dusty, you're not going to get much rim clean. But if you are out riding a prep track or trail or muddy trail, you're going to get mud all over the rim, and we call that rim clean. How much the tire is rolling over the side of the rim and cleaning off the rim. And generally about a millimeter of rim clean is fine. 1.5 is even fine. You see a guy that's running like a 5 or 6 psi type of a bib or tubeless, and he's cleaning off half the rim. That might work great for a hard enduro situation, but for cornering or go fast type of stuff, for me, that's too much tire roll when I'm side loading the tire. Everybody's different. If you want to run 6 psi, run it. I can't ride on 6 psi. It's not going to work well for me personally. Maybe if it's a sloppy, nasty mud race or a hard enduro race where I'm just going to run that in the back, I totally get that. Running 6 psi in the back for just hard enduro, that would work. As far as sizing, man, they just come all over the place. And it has become a little bit less consistent than what it used to be. I've been involved with bib mousses for a really long time. Um, Started running them in the mid 90s. I was a mechanic for a guy named Scott Summers. He ran Michelin bibs. At the time, we would get them from Moto Race, and we actually got them straight out of France. And they were really hard to get, super difficult to get in the late 90s. And they have a shelf life, right? Like they're only going to last so long. The things that are going to be really hard on them is cold temperatures. If you store them, try not to store them in really cold temperatures or crazy hot temperatures. As far as storage, that's a couple things that are going to be bad. Check those sizes because, like I said, a Michelin, which I prefer that as well because it's the lightest. The Michelin 120 used to fit really well for me in a 110 Dunlop. Lately, they've been coming too small. The 140 is massive, right? That's a huge 140 18 rear. And so a lot of times what I'll do with those is I'll put that in the back of, this isn't a great example because you would never want to run this on the road, but my adventure bike, I mainly ride single track on it. And so I'll put it in a 120 tire on my adventure bike, beat it up until I get it to about 33 centimeters, and then I'll put it in a dirt bike tire. Usually I end up giving it to one of my racers that needs it. But yeah, sizing wise, they do come a little bit different. And when you're talking about bib construction, that Michelin is the lightest. The Dunlop is about 10 ounces to a pound heavier. I made a video about those weights, and then the nitro is the heaviest. The nitro bounces like a basketball. Some people love that because it acts like a tube. The Michelin on the Dunlop has that rebound dampening it, or a more negative way to say it is it has a dead feeling. Personally, for me, I like that dead feeling. I prefer it. I'm not a nitro kind of guy. There's lots of people that are nitro people. I feel they're too heavy. I don't like the bounciness of it. And when you're looking at these, I have a nitro sample here, and it's really dense inside. And so, the nitro is more foam and less nitrogen. Here's an old beat up Michelin. You can't really see it super well, but it's kind of beat down. So a lot of the nitrogen has been sort of dissipated out of it, either through pounding, heat, or both. And so the Michelin is not as dense when you're checking a a nitro versus a Michelin. It's just not as dense. And then the Dunlop, for me, is a little more dense than a Michelin and definitely less dense than a nitro. A Dunlop also, I found, needs a little bit bigger circumference than a Michelin to feel the same way. So when I'm putting a Dunlop in, generally I put in a little bit bigger Dunlop to get the same feel than I would out of a Michelin. I don't have a ton of experience with these. I've used them a couple times, but I've got a lot of experience with Michelin, and I've got a decent amount of experience with Dunlop. Again, I like that rebound dampening for when I'm hitting a root, a rock or something, and that helps absorb some of that blow and not bounce off it. I do like the rebound dampening of a bib. I understand on the motocross side, why they would like the tube feel a little bit more. Generally, all your pro motocross, supercross guys are running a bib in the back and a tube in the front. I think the exception was a couple GP guys at the end of the year ran it in the front. I believe Caroli ran a front bib as well when he came over, probably just what he's used to because they have rockier tracks. As far as like tire sizing, Dunlops generally are the biggest tire carcass out of all the tire manufacturers. And I would say that Kenda is probably the smallest. So, I've had guys that take the bibs that come out of my Dunlops and they will put them in a Kenda and have great luck with them, great success, as Borat would say. So keep that in mind. It really depends on what kind of tire you're using with the bib. And then I've definitely had it before where I get an 8100 bib and go, man, this thing is massive. I got to stick it in a 9100 tire, beat it up for a while before I can actually try to go decently fast on it. So it's normal. I hate to say it, but it's just normal. Sometimes it's how long is it sat on the shelf. Sometimes it's just manufacturing. Maybe one got a little bit more nitrogen pushed into it than the other one, but they definitely come different. You can have two different 8100s, two different sizes in an 8100 in any of the brands, really. They're unpredictable and difficult, but we put up with them because, in my opinion, they are the best case use for what I do. I just don't want to get a flat. Heat's the biggest enemy. You want to be careful about using a water-based lube. You got to have them lubed up. When I was a mechanic, new tires were going on almost every day. And so we would use Murphy's tire soap. That's water soluble. So any power washing, any riding in creeks or rivers, that's going to wash all the lube away. Whereas the silicone-based lubricant that comes with the bibs, that's a lot better. A Michelin or a Nitro or a Dunlop lubricant, if it gets a little water on it, it's actually going to work better. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Try to stay away from water-soluble type of lubricants. As far as the Mousse balls, I've never used them. One thought I have is they're heavy. I have checked them out. They're kind of heavy. But then also, friction is definitely a problem. And so if you're fairly fast, so not on the hard enduro side, but if you're going fast and you've got all these little balls rubbing against each other, that's going to add more friction when the balls are rubbing against the carcass and they're rubbing against each other. The ball thing, when I worked for Scout Summers, I was involved with some of the development of tire balls, so I understand it. I tested and ran tire balls and was involved with a lot of that type of stuff. So it's not a foreign concept to me. I just think a Michelin bib works great, or a Dunlop bib works great, even a Nitro if you're on a budget, or if you like that bouncy feel and don't mind a little bit extra weight. Yeah, I hope this answered your question. I don't know if it's the answer that anybody was looking for, but yeah, stick with it. And if you have any questions, let me know. See ya.